Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to the sheep pen, bah, where no goats are allowed. So today we're going to talk about the demonic plot to destroy the world. We're talking about this 100-year plan that Satan is employing to enslave humanity and to destroy all things Christian and Americana. Okay? And so in previous videos, I spoke about how the demonic plot worked to destroy relationships in the home and the family and marriages, how there was no unity in the community. And in another video, I talked about the responsibility of men to be men and to stand up in this world and let their voices be heard and to do the hard things, right? Don't take the easy way out. And then I talked about how the 100-year plot and technology has affected children and families and homes and relationships between children and parent. And so now I'd kind of like to talk about the thing that in some ways started this channel, the discussion of the cabal, the big conspiracy. Who is behind the 100-year plan? What parts of our culture are permeated by these people planted in key positions to cause mayhem and destruction in the world? So many times we focus on the street soldier, the Antifa, and activists and protesters and kooks, but we rarely talk about the people in power. It's easy to pick on the big bad guys like Soros. Hell, I wrote a song about him, right? George Soros is a vampire. I just can't prove it. And one of the richest, most manipulative men on the planet. But few people talk about that middle ground, that middle area, middle management in the demonic cabal. Everybody looks at the fingers that are committing the crimes on the streets. They look at the political action committees and the PACs and the organizations that funnel money. But few people talk about how this evil demonic cabal has members in middle class America. Your neighbor might be an Illuminati cabal member and you wouldn't have any idea. And one of the things from the Sfali conversation that I had all those years ago with that woman named Sfali, who told me about all the things back then that are going to happen in the future that are now happening, that are now underway. And one of the things she said was, or I said, what would the cops, or how are you going to stop the police force and the veterans? Because the police and the veterans are kind of, our soldiers on the street are just regular everyday folk. And how could somebody just claim power? If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. It's got over 800,000 views. It's called I Met an MK Ultra trainer, the long version, or the end game, the long version. And she talked about how in the end, after they create all this chaos, that they're going to take over. And they're just going to be basically an unmarked army is going to take over the streets, and everybody's going to lay down and roll over because the chaos beforehand and the lawlessness beforehand makes people ready to accept anyone who wants to be in charge. And I asked Folly, I said, what about the police and the veterans? And she said, well, first of all, we've infiltrated the police. She said every major police organization is the people at the top are all Illuminati Kabbalists. They're all part of the conspiracy. They're all Satanists, she claimed. And she said that all of your higher up people in every major and minor police force and county sheriff's office and even the state police have been infiltrated for years by this cabal of Illuminati Satanists. And that when the crap hits the fan, when the balloon goes up, when they launch their takeover, the police will not respond because the people in charge will never give the order. And then she said, and if there's any lone wolves, any people that are still not connected, that are still not under our control, when this rolls out, it will be easy for our troops just to take them out. And so with that in mind, with that concept, I almost did this as a coffee talk, but I think it's a little more serious than that. What most people discover when they go deep down the rabbit hole of all of this is a connection between Satanism, demonic worship, conjuring of demons, and uh, elite power players at the highest level. There's another element to this that I will purposely, and please in the comment section, purposely leave this out because they're so scared of us talking about this that I could be taken down by saying a word that starts with, uh, a P, right? And sounds kind of like the end of Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? If I say that word, if I talk about this in this context, if I talk about human sacrifice and relate it to that word and to those kind of people, apparently I can't say that anymore, but I'll be taken down. And let's skip all that because we know what we're talking about. But this cabal of people who do blood sacrifices to deities, Satan, Lucifer just being one of them, Baphomet, others like that, Baal, um, there's one that slips my mind. But these devil worshippers have this 100-year plan. And it's also linked into the depopulation concept. The idea that there are too many humans being born, and at some point we're going to run out of resources. So the rich elite have decided to do certain things in the world to cause populations to stay stable, or even hopes of lowering global population. Some people who've been linked to this are people like Mr. Bill, sounds like Mates, but it's not. G, you know what I mean? That guy. He's been quoted publicly making some statements that are pretty damning all on their own. But what is interesting to me is how a belief that there is some kind of organized force of evil in the world is called a conspiracy theory, when in fact it's conspiracy fact, because you don't need to be theorizing anymore because many of these people have come out into the open. You know, they have these sex parties where often human sacrifice occurs. The one of the musicians in the German rock band the Scorpions tells a story publicly and openly about how his band was called to perform to one of these high-end elite parties, and what they ended up witnessing was a human sacrifice before their very eyes. They didn't know what they were signing up for on that gig, right? And but the interesting thing is that how common this really is, how there really are little groups of Satanists that are linked, little groups of devil worshippers that are linked, that permeate middle America and even small towns. That it's not uncommon for people to uncover a satanic ring in a small town government in any, uh, Mayberry type little town around the globe. I mean, around the country anyway, in America. It's nothing to find their city government, their teachers, their city council, their police forces, all in a secret cabal of satanic ritual. And it's become enough common to where you can't really call it a conspiracy anymore. A conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy. It ain't a theory, is my point. And so, which brings me to uh, a television show that I've been watching lately that I find very interesting, because it's clearly written by somebody who knows a lot about exorcisms, knows a lot about the spirit realm, demonology, the occult, and all of its elements. And yes, they take Hollywood license, and there's a whole lot of unrealistic exorcistic practices that happen on this show. But I got a monthly subscription to Paramount Plus, and this show is one of the reasons. It's called Evil, Evil, Evil. I don't really recommend watching this show unless you're very spiritually strong, because it is what it's about, evil. And it's fiction, but fiction based in real supernatural occurrences. And routinely in almost every episode, there is one or more dynamic exorcisms performed by a Catholic priest. And what I find interesting in this is that they begin to uncover middle of the road demonic, demonically possessed and organized purveyors of mayhem and destruction that they reveal in the fiction of this story. a true thing that I believe occurs in this world, that there are groups of people who commit crimes together for the purpose of religious sacrifices and religious ceremonies. That, like the vampire legends of old, that there are real human beings who do these horrific things, and now they're doing it in groups. And there's always been this element of small group cells of evil working together under the control, or at least the acknowledgement, of the high end elite Satan worshippers and devil worshippers that are infiltrated throughout our society. They are embedded in our organizations. And but with the onset of this new technology, first with telephones, it made it easier to coordinate with other evil people and not get caught, and then the internet, which makes it easy for anybody sneaky to get away with anything. We've talked about the effect that the privacy of Facebook and other platforms like that can make it so easy for someone to cheat that it's impossible to stop them anymore. But they can just do whatever they want, and they make it so simple. And so likewise, they've made it simple for these religions, to these alternate satanic, demonically inspired religions of all sorts, to organize, grow, build membership, indoctrinate people, evangelize to the public, and then also work together and work in concert with other small groups for the greater mayhem and destruction that they all seek. Many of them will sell their religions in a lot of the ways that what I talk about here, that you can have what you want from God. You can claim things from God. You can deny things of the devil by the power of your own will and the blood of Jesus Christ and his testimony. And our testimony as Christians can overcome the devil, and we can have a supernatural effect that will give a real world end effect. Does that make sense? That in the end, what you can do in the spirit realm will greatly affect the physical realm. They teach this as well, but they use black magic and Satanism and prayers to Satan or other deities and sacrifices to accomplish the thing that we can accomplish freely as joint heirs of Christ. But we can't cross the dark side and really damn our enemies. The way God works is people damn themselves, right? Where the dark side will go after people and try to destroy their lives. That only happens at their own hands on God's side. God just sits back and people do the work themselves, right? They destroy their own self. God does repay. He is a just God. But it's a little bit different. You might call it manifestation. They might call it magic. You might call it an answer to prayers. But the supernatural is real, and there are people on both sides who operate in the supernatural to real world effect, okay? And the ones on the dark side are using this technology to grow, to organize, and to check in with their higher ups. And never before in history do these seemingly unconnected demonic cells of people and organizations, never before have they been able to interact with their elite leadership in such a direct way. To where if something happens on the street in a protest, if something happens in a oak grove in the dark, the people at the top know what's up and who is who. And that's one of the things this show Evil does present to you. It shows you people in high-ranking positions, even people within the Catholic Church itself, even within local churches, who are under the control of the devil and operating almost openly for the dark side, under the mask of goodness, right? And I think that show more than anything captures, for me, it starts to really show you what's up. And the show is definitely produced by the dark side. The show definitely is designed to shake you from your Christian faith, and at the same time glorify the devil and demons as real, and make you wonder whether you have the power against them or not. But yet it's back and forth. It waffles. It has to keep you present. Like, there's a psychologist that's part of their team that's hired to do these assessments on behalf of the Catholic Church to see who would be not worthy but eligible for exorcism. And so they're investigators who are investigating demonizations to see whether they need to do an exorcism or not. And a atheist psychologist is on the team. And she starts to dismiss the good things that happen through these exorcisms, because people do have results. They have an exorcist come in and their problems go away and their behaviors change and they go back to being who they were before and their health returns. And as a psychologist, she starts calling this the placebo effect. So you can see an underlying theme of carnality and a favoritism towards the dark side and a dismissiveness towards the power of God. But there are other characters that make you wonder. They give you just enough to keep you from going, oh, this is definitely anti-Christian. They don't do that. And it can almost seem like it's like a real situation and these people really are of good heart and intention. And you start to forget that maybe it's a form of propaganda on behalf of the demonic and the elite, right? Their bad guys get rewarded a lot for their bad behavior. That's a classic example of you being able to tell what side they're on, right? Because on our side of the world, crime doesn't pay, right? And cheaters never prosper, and liars get found out in the end. But that's not the reality in a lot of these shows, because they're glorifying that behavior. More of this technology, and I would call this even, what is it? Not productive programming, predictive programming. It's predictive programming to a great deal, because they are already showing you this cabal of evil, kind of normalizing it, making you think, hey, this is a normal part of life for there to be highly powerful and demonized people who go around screwing people over and destroying their lives for the pure joy of it and to the glory of their Lord, the devil, right? And they show that in a way to where it's kind of normalizing it. So, I mean, there's a time when if somebody said they were a devil worshiper, people would freak out. And now you're like, oh, okay, there's no Satanist. you know? But I set all this up and said all this to say, Folly knew long ago that there is a community of Satanists and devil worshippers of Baphomet and Baal, people who do believe in human sacrifice as a way of getting what they want, and animal sacrifice, people who are connected, who are high ranking, who are up in the corporate world, the church, the government, even the local governments, even police, even down to your middle class corporation jobs, upper and middle management in a lot of these organizations. Those places are being held. Even the unions have these Satanists and these devil worshippers embedded in them in positions of power secretly. And it's part of how they're going to roll out the end game that Folly talked about. It's part about how they're going to make all this happen and occur, because they already have the pawns in place, the chess pieces in place, the deck is stacked already. There's a plan in place, and meanwhile they gaslight us all and tell us all it's a theory, that our conspiracy worries are a theory, when in fact there is a real conspiracy of real people, demonically inspired, many of them infested with demons. And a handful of holy men around the world who know how to do what we do are the only ones that can help them if they want it out. And even then, delivering somebody like that is a tall order. On that topic, I'll give you a little quick update here in the middle of the video of the fact that I've been conducting a lot of deliverance ministry over the last month. It's very exhausting. It makes me a target for the enemy. My defenses are so strong that they rarely get a hold of me, but they often torment the people around me. And so I do covet your prayers. All you prayer warriors out there, please pray for me that when I do battle with these demons, that their backlash will have little or no effect on me and the people around me. And pray for the completion of these deliverance sessions, because many times you start to get close to the real big devil and he'll force the person to run. But they typically come back, but they don't always do. But I just keep slinging, right? I just keep throwing punches at the devil. I just keep destroying the devil's work in every way that I can. Whether it's helping the underprivileged, delivering people from the disease of alcoholism or drug abuse. And I've had pretty good record in assisting people in freeing themselves. And I do it very different than the Catholics. That's why I don't need you to sign a waiver, because what I do is pray with you and you do the work. I'm just the backup. But that means I get the brunt of the demonic backlash because I'm the guy making it happen and they know it. And so I do covet your prayers. But we are in a world where the demonization of people is on a scale unprecedented in history. That never in history has there been so many demonized and demon possessed people. That because of the occultic practices, because of the constant barrage of brainwashing coming from the movies and television, because of music and video games, these are all tools of the enemy to draw people into the occult, get them to dabble, and when they do, they open doors. And then, of course, there's the child abuse, the trauma that demonized people can do to children, causing them to come into this life already damaged and demonized. And you can get many generations deep of demonized people. There are whole families, whole communities, whole cities of people in this country where the vast majority of them are vexed by the demonic. And many of them accept it as real life, as just regular life, rather. They accept it as bad luck. They accept it as compulsion, addiction, mental illness, when really there's whole cities in the state of Oklahoma, in the middle of the Bible Belt, in the buckle of the Bible Belt, where entire cities are under the control of the evil one. I did a short video a few years back called "A New Dark Age is Rising." It got copied, duped, re-edited, and distributed around the country and around the world. And although it didn't get many views here, the many different versions of it did get a lot more views. And I just simply talk about how it feels like the gates of hell have opened up. This was back in 2017 or 2018 when I made that video. And it's just gotten worse since then. Snatch and grab robberies have become commonplace. Assaults on people for no reason, like the knockout game, have become commonplace. Attacks, rapes on public transportation when no man is strong enough to stand up and just say stop it even, or even try to help her. They just watch or take videos, or in some god-awful cases, laugh. And it's evidence. What I'm telling you is that demons are roaming our world like they never have before. Some might blame the things that go on at CERN. Some might say it's a sign of the end times. But whatever it is doesn't matter to me, because the Catholic Church, the specialized arm of exorcists in the Catholic Church, which is pretty well represented, I think, in a lot of ways in this television show Evil on the Paramount Plus network, that this television show really kind of captures a lot of the character of some of these exorcists from the Catholic Church, who threw up a red flag and a warning sign a couple years back when they became inundated with requests for exorcisms. And that's one of the theme of the show Evil, is that they have so many exorcisms they have to pick and choose, and you have to make an appointment weeks or months in advance, and they don't do it for just anybody. You got to prove you need it. They got to see it. They got to examine you and make sure that you're not just mentally ill, and so or in need of medication, for instance. And that's also one of the themes of this show, is the involvement of psychology and demonization. That a vast majority of things that psychologists call mental illness, in my opinion, as an exorcist, is it's a misidentification, right? They're not mentally ill, they're demon possessed, and they can be cured with an exorcism. Sometimes, though, it's a chemical imbalance, and demons can attach to things like chemical imbalances, like bipolarism, and cause it to enhance and be worse and be out of control. Where if you get the demon out of the picture, the bipolarism, the up and down, is pretty easy to deal with when you don't have a devil riding on your shoulder, driving you further on the downs and pushing you further on the ups. And it's really, I'm a firm believer in psychologists and exorcists working hand in hand with psychiatrists and medical doctors. But we're willing to play. Many of them are not willing to play. But one key thing about this is you start to see in this television show psychologists recognizing the benefits of exorcism and understanding how it goes hand in hand with psychology and psychiatry. Some people are so demonized and vexed that you can't get to the person to get their consent to cast the devils out of them, because you can force them out, but it is ugly and takes a long time, and sometimes the person dies in the process. So I don't force devils out. I contact the person inside and get them to ask me for help and agree that they want out. They want these demons out. And then we do it together, me leading them in a prayer that they speak, and it's their words that hold even more power than mine. It's their words when they denounce these demons and tell them that they hate them and they want rid of them and they never want anything from them again and they don't need their help in their life anymore and they want them to go away. That's where the real power lies. And so they're very good at showing these exorcisms, but they tend to have a lot of hissing and spitting and yelling and screaming involved in the exorcisms. And that's one of the things that I have against the Catholic Church and how they conduct exorcisms, is that they go by a script. And we wrote a better script about 25 or 30 years ago, and it's a script I'm continually working on, and I think I have the best script for deliverance ministry right now of anyone. But it's so peculiar in the way that I do it, that, and I want to prove it out more. I want to get more of these under my belt before I write a book on this. And I'm going to write a book on deliverance and this new method that I'm working on, where it combines all these elements. If you get a medical doctor on board, you can get a psychologist or psychiatrist on board, because sometimes you have to medicate these people so the demons can't operate and the person can come through the medication better than the demon can. And when you give these people psychotropic medications, psychiatrists would there's several different drugs. I won't name them, but you can give people these drugs that are highly demonized, and it'll put them in a semi-vegetative catonic state, and you can speak to the person, and the demons are silenced. And then you can get them to agree that they want rid of them. Then you can cast the devils out of them, wean them off the medication, and you get a whole person. And it's a lot faster than 15 or 20 years of psychotherapy, in my humble opinion, based on my own experiences with people. And other exorcists like me, we talk, right? There's a network of us. And so I really see that as the future rolls around, expect more and more demonization, more and more people just flipping out in the freeway and killing people, flipping out in the freeway and trying to eat your brains like a zombie, because the devil is on the rampage. The new dark age that I predicted some 4 years ago is absolutely happening. It's happening right now, and every day it gets worse. If you think you are demonized, I pray that you find someone local to help you, because this is not something I can take care of over the phone or long distance. And I don't do it for just everybody. You think the Catholic Church is picky about who they do this with? I'm even pickier. You got to want it. You got to hate it. Hate those devils so bad. You got to want it, or I won't help you, because I don't like to fail. And it takes two of us to win with God's help, right? With God's power, it takes two of us to make it happen. You and the person doing the deliverance, and they have to be a team. And but I've developed a new method that does it over time and combines teaching and healing along with it. And it's becoming clear it's very effective, and I have a low relapse rate. So anyway, I want y'all to pray for what I do. Pray for the writing that I'm working on. It may seem like I'm watching TV, but I don't really watch anything that doesn't instruct me into the enemy's work or the work of God's people. And so I tend to watch a lot of occultic-based shows. You might think I was into magic and witchcraft as much as there's stuff on my YouTube feed, but it's because I'm dismantling the enemy's methodology. I am coming against the enemy by understanding them, by getting inside their thinking so that I can predict what they will do next. Because you never know what's next in this crazy, crazy world. And I know it's a little icky, and it's a little like topic, right? So I'm going to give you this cleansing prayer of protection. Lord, surround us all in your ring of fire and hedge of thorns of protection. Lord, send mighty angels of sufficient rank, authority, and number to drive the enemy from our midst, Lord. Drive them from us and allow them never to return again. And Lord God, surround us and cover us and envelop us in your peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding. We'll see you next time on the Sheep Pen. Don't forget to support the channel. I really need your help. money's really tight. Tithes are down with the holidays. If you got any extra, kick it my way. Every little bit helps. PayPal in the description, all that. You can send stuff to the P.O. box. I love gift cards. Walmart gift cards or wherever they're from are great. So Cracker Barrel, thank you for thank you to the ones that send me this stuff, because I'm using it and enjoying it, and it's sustaining me and maintaining me. So I ask the Lord bless and keep you, His face shine upon you, and we'll see you next time on the Sheep Pen. Bye, or no goats are allowed.